Everybody, this is Perch. Here's a viewer who is asking me a question about something I've said in the past, and let's explore it. It says, "Hey, Perch, you've stated a number of times that you have an unbroken run of X-Men, and you intend to keep it going. I can understand that, but what I'm curious about is what books have you given up on? What is the longest run of a book where you finally channeled your inner Popeye and said, I've had all I can stands and I can't stands no more?" Obviously, running your own shop lends itself to collecting books on your own. Without running a shop, how far have you gotten? Triple digits? Um, so books I've given up on. I think there's been a few. I'll give you an example. I was collecting She-Hulk way back in the day when John Byrne launched it, and then Byrne left, and it just like it wasn't funny. I don't know. Suddenly it wasn't any good, and or it wasn't for me. I guess is a better way to put it. So I know some people really like that run, and so I broke it. I mean, that's a cheap example, but there's certainly been things like that where just the creative team shifts and it's no longer something that I care to collect. I had a pretty good run of the Avengers going that I eventually gave up on. I gave up on it? God, I gave up on it twice. I gave up on it first during the Onslaught stuff. They turned the Wasp into an actual Wasp lady, and that was bad, all bad. And then I gave up again. I remember when, what was going on at the time? It's pre-Hickman. I guess Bendis. I remember when they did the bit where they had the Avengers and they had Dark Reign and they had Heroes Reborn, and then Luke Cage was buying the Avengers mansion, and it's like, all right, I'm bowing out a little bit at this point. I couldn't take it. Now, there's definitely been some eras of the X-Men that felt like I should give up on it, and what I'm embarrassed to say is that there's been moments where I don't read the comic book for like a year or a year and a half. I'm still collecting it because I want to keep the run going, but I'm like, yeah, nope. And I remember one of these was during the Drago era of Chuck Austin on the X-Men, where I wasn't a year, but several months had piled up, and no, I couldn't do it. No interest at all in continuing that thing going. So. Definitely, I think there's stuff like that's happened. But in general, I haven't. The thing is, I haven't thought that way about a lot of other comics. So with the X-Men, I had a mission that I got to earlier. I think when I first decided I would start collecting it was during the Mutant Massacre stuff. I've been collecting it for a bit of time, but I didn't feel like I needed to go back and get the whole run. And I remember when it was that cover where the mutants looked angry. Storm and Kitty Pryde and Colossus and Nightcrawler, I think, was on there, and they were all looking mad. I may have the people wrong, but anyway, they're all looking angry, and it was right at the start of the Mutant Massacre. And I remember reading that, going, "Wow, this is such a great issue," and I just love where this is going. I love how much time it takes, and I love the stuff that I've gotten trade. I like the Dark Phoenix saga. I like a lot of the lead up to there's just so much good here. I'm gonna get it all. And I had a lot of the issues already, but then became like a multi-year search to get the rest of the issues. And I remember completing it right around Inferno. It was relatively quickly that I got to a complete set in good condition. And felt pretty good about that. I'd had the New Mutants since number 1 already. Like I said, I was collecting stuff, but I didn't have that, I'm going to go back and get everything, feeling going just yet. So, I did that. And then, life was pretty good. And then, there were definitely eras where it just felt like bad stuff was happening. Wolverine devolving into a kind of a dumbass, whatever that thing was, that was bad. Like I said, the Chuck Austin run was pretty bad. And then, sad to say, I mean, I didn't enjoy the aftermath of House of M when the mutants were living on like a reservation with Sentinels. That was pretty terrible. And also the years later, like when they went to Utopia, a lot of that just drug on. Kieran Gillen's run on X-Men. What's interesting is a lot of people are going, Gillen is a natural successor to Hickman. His Immortal X-Men is going to be great. A lot of can't wait. Gillen's a great writer, and I think Gillen is a good writer. But people forget that run of Uncanny X-Men he did when he relaunched it, and it was after Schism. And that was dog shit. That was it's a terrible run of a comic. That introduced the weirdo Sinisters, and just so yeah, that was not a great, not a memorable run, I would say, over there. So for me, but let's keep going. I think the thing that would eventually get me is if they start really trying to get me to break the run. So I know that Marvel had talked about in the recent past that an idea that they could have was to start publishing the X-Men kind of like Netflix, where they don't publish a monthly comic anymore, but they like wait like 3 or 4 months, and then they give you like 2 graphic novels, and then they wait a couple more months, and then they give you like 6 issues at a time, and this kind of season approach. And if they did that, that for me would be the all right, we're out moment. I would be the okay. I've got an unbroken run of the core comic, and the core comic has turned into something else. And I can safely say I have the entire run of the X-Men, and I don't know what they're doing now, but it's no longer a run. It's no longer a thing to collect. And I think that for me would be it. Now, hopefully, that doesn't happen. I would love for that, never to get there. And I think that they'd be crazy to do something like that. But, crazy as crazy does. And they do seem to, at various times, really, try and set their minds to doing things to almost determined to chase people out. So I think if they change the nature of the comics, I would be done. To me, what I don't like feeling, and I admit I do feel it at times, I don't like feeling like I have to collect it because it's an investment. Meaning, I don't really like the comics. I don't like the stories. I'm collecting them because that's what I'm doing, and that's all I got. I'm collecting because I've been collecting for a while now, and it's only like $4 a month or $5 a month, whatever it happens to be. It's only a certain amount of money, and I mean, I guess that's just my tax. And every now and then I felt that way with comics. Like, this is my tax of enjoying a lot of good books that, I have to pay to fund something. And it's a gross, weird, backward way of thinking. Nobody should think that way. And as soon as you do think that way, I think it's a good sign you should stop. But like a good addict, I am not stopped yet. But I guess that's the straightest enough answer I can give you. I think another one. I mean, I was a big fan of Legion of Superheroes, and I made up in my mind to start collecting it and start going getting all the back issues of that, which is going to be a much hairier proposition. And I made that decision back in the 5 years later arc of like, ah, man, I want it all. And I collected along for a while. I went back a bit, but at some point, the 5 years later arc turned into, I don't know, something I didn't recognize anymore. And it was, I'm like, okay, I made a horrible mistake, and I'll back away from that suddenly. So I guess the question goes out to all of you. What comics have you gotten tired of, or you decided, you know what, I intended to collect this, but it proved me wrong. I'm done. My suspicion is almost everybody has the same tipping point, which is they no longer consider it meaningful to have a complete run. In their minds, the complete run has happened. And I know several people who think that way, where they basically kind of decide for themselves, like, I completed it all. I know it's still going, but what's still going is basically like a zombie corpse, and I don't need to participate anymore in that. So I'm going to bow out at this moment. I'm gonna call it good. And I think that there's I don't know, there's a lot of people who have told me that story before. Like, I know the comic's still going, but really the comic ended back when they rebooted it for the fourth time, and at that point it was nobody thinks this new stuff is part of that run because it's so divorced from everything else. I've heard that a lot about X-Men, that the Krakoa and what, the moment Hickman did his business, it was like, oh, this is a new life of Moira. This isn't the old life, and we're going to just say we're good, and the end. That's how kind of it feels, that for a number of people, and I'll be honest, to me as well. I mean, that is a sharp dividing point between the X-Men of old and the X-Men of today. The X-Men of today, it's not the same book. It's not the same run. It is something new. Now, maybe, just maybe, they get back to it. Claremont was always great about, throwing a curveball to people, but then eventually you get back to, business. This one, it feels like they've crossed the Rubicon, and they're not going back to business. So maybe we're done. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. When have you opted out? You're done. Nope, no more. in a comic run. Curious what was that tipping point for you? And thanks for listening.